Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by... This is the Open Championship Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog Fantasy. You good people out there, use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get yourself a deposit bonus of up to $250. We got some Pickem. We got some draft announcements coming up. Just hit the description for all of the info, all right? Let's get to it.
You are entering the Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
This is it. The final Open Championship preview show that we got going on for the year's final major. Of course, there'll be the Cut Sweat show, probably around noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll figure out the time on Thursday for Friday when we go live, and you can come sweat along with us. Smash the like, sub to the channel while you are here, and a reminder to sub to the free newsletter down in the description. You can use Mayo Media Substack if you just like Googling things or DuckDuckGoing things. Either way, it's completely free, and that's where all the final plays and all the final information is going to be coming out on Wednesday evening. Lock for the Open Championship, for bets, for DraftKings, for Underdog, whatever it might be, is going to be at 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time from shipitnation.com. Code Mayo. Tambo is in studio. What's up?
Back in the building. Yeah, final major of the season. Where do you rank this one? I had to ask you that coming in. I was thinking about mine this week, and I've got it up there, but I'm curious where you got the Open at.
I feel like I say it's my number one, but just when the Masters comes around, because it's the first one, it's like, yeah, this is a lot of fun.
I think this year the Masters dropped to 3 for me.
Behind
Even
the
though
US
it's
Open?
got the legacy and all that, I think it's US Open, the Open, Masters. They're all close, and then Gap, big Gap, PGA Championship.
I think it depends on where you live with the Open Championship as well. Like, I guess if you lived on the West Coast, it would start at, like 10 p.m. That would be kind of fun. I just like getting up super early, at 5 in the morning, and just start watching golf all the way through. They basically, if you want to get some Darren Clark in your life, as I usually do, and you're watching the first tee, I think it's Todd Hamilton this year who is first out. But
Who's ripping the cigs, or is he just still first out?
No, he's not. Yeah. Darren Clark's the one who's always just at 4 a.m. just ripping cigs on your TV because it's the only guy that they can show. They usually try not to show people smoking. I guess Alex Noren and Tom McKibben are out pretty early too. They're the second group out this time around. Worth noting that the Open Championship, if people don't know, I wrote this up in the Monday newsletter, but there's no split tees. Everyone tees off from 1. So the gap between the first group out and the final group out, so 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the Justin Leonard, Todd Hamilton, Jack McDonald group. And then the tee time is going to be 11:27 a.m. Eastern Time for Sam Horsfield and some of these guys. But that's like a 10-hour difference. So that's how you end up with these microwaves in terms of the Open Championship. And when you're looking at stacking, there's no real AM, PM. I mean, there is, but just you almost have to take in like 2 to 2.5 hour chunks of when guys are going to be on the course together.
Yeah, I forget what the coin you termed was. I think it was microwaves, but microwaves, that's the one. So we can look at some of that when you do it. Right now, the weather is up. People are going back and forth on how it's looking, but that's because it's Scotland. So it is back and forth on what you're seeing, and the wind's changed like 3 times overnight already for different angles. So I think it'll be right up to lock for this weather stuff. What do you think?
I think so too, but as I'm looking at it right now, and we'll break down the weather. Actually, let's do it right now. We can just talk about the weather. Friday and Thursday look like it's going to be super windy. There's going to be rain spattered throughout the course of the day, but there doesn't seem to be any sort of significant advantage.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that would maybe be an advantage, I guess now, and sometimes I make fun of this stuff, sometimes I just see it and talk through it and here it comes. But I think that, just being able to play in the wind, golfers talk about it all the time. You hear it, interview this, interview that, where people say it's like, oh, it's the problem is when there's all these random gusts that I can't figure it out and it's changing on me 24/7. We have pretty standard gusts across the board and pretty standard sustained winds across the board. So it probably is going to be just who plays better in the wind, at least what it looks like right now, because that's for both days that we're seeing it that way.
Do you know who the number one player in the wind over the past 24 rounds is?
Different places say different people, but Akshay Bhatia's up there. I know that.
He is. He's number 5 on that list.
Who's first?
Tony Finau.
There you go. That's the guy this week, man. People love him.
Of course, he's not the most bet. Do you know who the most bet on guy this week is? Or most tipped player? I guess bet on and like touts putting up tips are different, but
I'm going to say Louis.
He's up there.
What about Bobby Mack?
It's not Bobby Mack.
Okay, his odds are insane.
It's someone I haven't seen anyone put up, which is really strange.
Who is it?
Tom Kim.
Wow. Interesting.
It's Tom Kim, then Finau, then Morikawa, then Hatton.
I just saw with Louis, his odds were insane versus what they started at. And then I saw McIntyre being like way up there in some places. Others still had him at a reasonable number, but still pretty interesting for coming off a win.
I feel like Bobby Mack has fallen back on the odds board. Like he was up with Rahm and Hatton and all those guys. Now he's like 10 to 15 points behind, depending on where you look at. They weren't taking a ton of Bobby Mack 25-1 action, it seemed like.
I don't think so.
So what we're seeing with the wind, it's going to be basically sustained 13 miles per hour all day on Thursday with gusts up to 30 at some points, but mainly gusts up to 25. Not that big of a difference. It's going to be windy. And then on Friday, it's looking like it's going to be sustained 13 to 17 with gusts up to 30 all day.
Yeah, that's exactly what I see. And other thing, too, just to note on Thursday is the temps stay low all day. I don't even see them cross 60. That's another thing that you usually look at, especially in Scotland, overseas. In general, you say, okay, is it going to be freezing cold in the morning? Are we going to see the mitts out, all that stuff? It looks to be pretty standard temperatures across the board for Thursday. Friday definitely gets a little bit warmer in the afternoon, but it's also the highest sustained winds as of right now, where you're pushing 16, 17 miles per hour sustained. So I don't know. I will say one thing. I don't really have a huge wave advantage as far as weather goes in this. It's not, to me, like the year, I think it was 2016 at Troon when we had that massive wave advantage on top of the Phil and Stenson breakaway. But I will say that, a lot of the chalk, when we get to it later, for who the people are on this week, are in the Thursday AM wave, going out Thursday morning. That's what you're going to see. All the, the guys that we're going to talk about later with Rory and Sungjae and Scott and all those dudes. So just if you wanted to play some sort of microwave or just wave in general, to your point, like you could definitely get away from some of those guys pretty easily.
Yeah, and you can try to pay it. I mean, sometimes just pairing them together and hoping it works out in your favor and trying to get lucky is the way to do it.
A lot of what it is, because it's a sport that we don't have a lot of correlation in, and that's one of the biggest ways you can get correlation in this DFS sport is to do that.
But overall, like I don't see... I can't point to like, oh, it's definitely the PM. Although whenever we say that, it turns out to be the AM anyway. So like, what's the difference? But everything looks pretty standard across the board here. Question for you. Of the top 20 finishers at the Scottish Open, how many of them do you think were American?
The Scottish Open?
Yeah, last week.
I don't have it in front of me, so I would guess maybe a low number, 2 or 3.
4 of the top 20 were American.
It was a pretty wild board up there. Like you had obviously Mac winning it, your boy Romain.
Yeah, the lettuce man
comes through.
Vic Perez ended up there as well at 6,300.
Yeah, and then there was other randoms, and then also other good Euro players that we would consider that way. So I mean, they're all good that found their way to the top. But I think 4 total. Who was it?
Morikawa, Theegala, Xander, and the hell was the other guy? Wyndham Clark.
Wyndham's run on Sunday.
Yeah, Wyndham shot 62 on Sunday.
Yeah, I looked at that, by the way. I don't know if you ever look at this stuff, but like Wyndham and Siwoo had crazy Sunday rounds.
And Richard Manziel.
Your boy Johnny's dad. Yeah, we'll check him out this week. He's there. But just interesting to dig in. Like those guys just went for broke on Sunday, as they should. But it's crazy the dispersion when you go across and see like hole by hole that there was like 7 holes where Clark just fired it at it and nailed it and then obviously made it. There was 5 or 6 holes where he was just way off the board, but obviously trying to fire at it and just completely missed. So that's those Sunday rounds where people just get after the pin chasing. That's definitely a real thing, and maybe something you want to bring into this week, maybe something you don't want to bring into this week.
For sure. Are there any like crossover events that you're looking at? Because the only one I'm besides the Open itself and how guys have performed there and trying to like pinpoint which Opens I really want to go with to like fit my narrative, because that's all you can really do. Be like, hey, I like this guy. What can I figure out? That's why I started looking at the win stuff. I was like, oh, I bet he Finau this week. Here's a good Finau stat for me to write up. And the fact that he played well at Portrush and his debut here was pretty good. I kind of like the Portrush comp because I think the guys, as much as people say they're not going to go driver heavy, I think they're going to go driver heavy.
Yeah, so you could do some of that, like Portrush correlation lineups or something if you wanted to. But I think, like to me, it's always going to be a factor of what's the tournament in front of us. That when we get to it later, actually building the lineups, which is key for this show, where we look at what the field's doing. Because for me, it's like kind of the Masters analogy when we'll get to a tournament and everyone that does well, like, oh, those are all good guys that play good at the Masters. Like,
you mean good players?
Yeah, just good players. And it's a smaller field at the Masters and everything. It's all part of it. So I get where you're coming from. It's definitely another way to put correlation into it when, like we said, in a sport that you don't have a lot of it. But for me, I'm going to be looking at a lot more. And I think this is a really intriguing week because while pricing did incorporate the 5K range and all, again, I know we'll get there, but I actually think the pricing was done well in the sense that there's only a couple spots that you're sort of know that everybody's going to, and we'll get to them. But I think that overall, you are making some decisions up top.
So the one that I did look at kind of across the board, just to get a sense of who plays well in Scotland, and I get that it's a Pro-Am event, so it's much easier, but it's the Alfred Dunhill Links. Mm-hmm. And just trying to go back in time a little bit to see how people have played. Last year, Fitz ended up winning. Ryan Fox was second. Ryan Fox won the year before that. And I'm like, I bet on Ryan Fox last week. It's not like he had a terrible week. It just seems like everyone's off of him now. Wacky Valimaki is another one who's had sustained success at the Alfred Dunhill Links. Matthew Southgate, Sebastian Soderberg, Nikolai Kolsertz. You're not getting a ton of like high-end American players. Billy Horschel tends to play it and like plays it pretty well. And he was third after the first round at Troon in 2016, then shot 85 in round 2. He was done. He got launched.
Yeah.
So the year before that, it was Ryan Fox, like I said, who won. Rory and Noren ended up tying for second. I really wish Antoine Rosner was playing because he like kills that tournament. But he didn't end up playing himself in from a week ago. But Matthew Pavon does play it actually quite well. And Billy Horschel was 10th the year before that as well. Billy is someone I've kind of started to gravitate towards as the week has gone along. I think we forget that like he played really well at the PGA Championship. I think he played pretty well at the US Open too, didn't he?
I don't have it up here.
Maybe he didn't, but there we are. Let's see. U.S. Open. Yeah, he was T41, and he was T8 at the PGA Championship. He's had some pretty decent results. He was bad last week in Scotland. A lot of that having to do with the putter. The other guy that really started popping up for me was Harris English.
Yeah, what did he end up finishing last week? Because I thought for a little bit there was at least one good round in there that I remember.
He ended up finishing last week. He was T34.
Yeah.
And just kind of solid across the board. And that's what you look for here. Like, he's going to be pretty accurate. He has a great short game, although it didn't really manifest itself last week. He can make his putts, and he's played well at majors. It just, I'm starting to think of, like, if I want to take some of these American guys, that I want the non-assuming American guy that could, like, you could visualize this person winning. And, like, almost like Harman last year. Like, no, like, I get that people bet on Harman last year. He was coming in really good form. Harman's actually another one this week who's actually probably a pretty good play.
Yeah.
But be like, yeah, of course Billy Horschel won an Open Championship. That's where he got his major. Like, the guy's been great for, like, a decade and a half.
Yeah, I didn't have him. I have the 85 and the backwards hat Billy in my mind, but, I just haven't seen it really from him here, but I could see it if it happens. I think the English one was kind of a good comparison, just thinking off of Harman last season. Henley's another one. He's, picking up a little bit of steam because he's down in that same range as other guys. But just for overall in general, I think that's kind of another option. But the English one certainly stands out to me, at least. That one could be all right, and we can get to him later, too. He can fit some lineups in a different style build.
100%. And the only other one that he was one of the names that popped up very highly in terms of great wind player. And I start to, assess what skill set you're looking for. I do think you probably do want to take a lot of bombers, but I could be dead wrong on that. Mm-hmm. And you want some more accuracy mavens who can get really hot with their irons and make a ton of putts. I give you Adam Hadwin. Top 10 in wind, by the way. Wind strokes gained. He's probably playing easier tournaments than most of the other guys, but still, he's up there.
Yeah, I actually like him a little bit this week, too. And there was something on this just a few weeks ago, just a little tidbit that I saw along the way. I think it was Adam Stanley, the Canadian beat writer guy that's out there that always posts everything on them. And I think it was that Hadwin went I think he went like a little bit of the Fitzpatrick route and added some distance, like some decent distance for him. But I'm saying still, if he's adding like 10 yards or whatever off that, still adds up. So he's been working on it, and I think he's been at least okay. If we look him up lately, he was another guy, much like Harris English, like 34th, finished just like him last week. He's actually the same price as Harris English later on DraftKings. He's got the third, the 27. He's been playing much better golf. So Hadwin is interesting too. I like that call.
Yeah, past 24 rounds on slow greens, because these are like they're listed as bent grass greens because they are, but it's not really the same bent grass greens as Augusta National. Mm-hmm. When we get up there, these ones run terribly slow. As do most either fescue-based courses or just things on the coast tend to run a lot slower. Yannick Paul is number one in that. Bjork is up there. Pavon, Rasmus Højgaard, Guido, Rahm, Billy Horschel, Harman, Nick Taylor, Rose, Griot, Burns, Wyndham Clark, Poston, Hadwin, Hatton, Bobby Mack, Straka, Fleetwood, Thigala, Ben Griffin is another one. Harris English is another one. And then a guy that we'll get to the final bets. I don't have them all in yet. What do you think of Cam Smith? If this turns hard and turns into a scramble fest, isn't he the guy that you want?
He looks pretty decent, yeah. 8,900 too when we get to DraftKings.
And
Even betting outright,
yeah.
one and done. Where I know this week a lot of people are looking at if they kept Rom and held on to him, they're hearing things about Brooks, if he can just find a putter, if they have Bryson still and they didn't use him one of those other ones. A lot of love, even Neiman, Louis, some of those guys. But Cam Smith is still right there, and if you've got him, this would be a really good spot to use him.
I think so too. I'm trying to figure out if I want to bet him outright or not. Like,
What's his outright number?
You can get it up to almost 60 now, I think.
I mean, that to me is a good speculative.
Yeah, and to kind of look back at the leaderboard after round 1 last year, like I was talking about, you had, where did it go? Did I get rid of it? There we are. Yeah, Phil shot a 63 in the opening round. And then Reed was second, Keimer, Stricker, Soren Kelson, Zach Johnson, like just great wedge players who can make some putts. And those were the guys who ended up there. Plus, they can scramble their way out of problems as well. Then you have some other guys like Keegan had 2 really good rounds to start it, and then he kind of went away. Finau was top 10 after round 1 last time. So was Justin Thomas. He went 67, 77. So he and Billy Horschel, I assume, played probably within 15 minutes of each other and just got absolutely wiped out by the weather. Thomas Peters was another one. Justin Rose was another one that had this great first round and just blew up like close to 80 in the second round.
Yeah, I'm already anticipating the Discord going nuts because that happens at all these opens where, there's great first rounds and then they blow up completely, or a blow up and everyone says they're done and then they bounce back and find their way around it. That's going to happen. What's your take on, I guess, the Cam Smith thing, just going back to it for 2 seconds. He has still shown up pretty solid at other venues, but obviously winning at St. Andrews, and most people talking about that's where guys like him could get away with things off the tee that maybe will be different here this week, right? So what do you think about when comparing to other open venues? I know you mentioned Port Rush, but
yeah, I think Port Rush and actually St. Andrews do have a lot in common. But I guess the point here, I think that if you can utilize the distance to your advantage, it becomes such an advantage, especially on the front 9 par 5s. Like, they become eagle holes almost instantaneously, especially number 4. Guys are carrying that burn off the tee and driving it like 400 yards downwind. They can basically putt onto the green for albatross. That, when we go back and look last time, like, how did Stenson and Phil win? They beat up the par 5s.
Yeah.
Because the back 9, especially the par 4s, are incredibly tough. So the extra distance is going to help you there as well. Well, what's the other way that we can think about this? Let's say the wind's in their face and they can't carry that burn and they can't do it. Well, it's just a bunch of guys like Bryson who just aren't going to hit driver off the tee. They're going to hit fucking 8-iron or something and hit the middle of the fairway every time. Like, you can splice it different ways. Like, if you are so wildly inaccurate that you think that gorse bush is a problem, you don't have to hit driver. Cam Smith can hit 4-iron off the tee. It's not that big of a deal. Phil basically hit 4-iron off every tee.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed too. Like, even like I said, Cam Smith, Fleetwood's another one. Surprisingly, like Koepka and Spieth, regardless of their form, but like they just found their way around all these styles of courses. It didn't matter where it was or what the venue was. So I think that's kind of the key to your point. Is experience is a key factor. There's going to be some guys that will take shots on that don't have a lot of experience, maybe, but probably have it overseas or something that we just don't know about. You brought up Alfred Dunhill. So it's definitely something to look at this week. In general, I think that's kind of the concept I'm going to be rolling with.
Let's jump over to Underdog Fantasy because we got to play some Pickems. The Pickems have vastly shifted. Really wish I didn't take the lower on Hatton earlier in the week, but anyone that I played higher on earlier in the week, feeling pretty good about that. I got like 2 strokes. Now, like, I had Willie Z higher than even par. I think he's up to like higher or lower than 73 now as his. Which way do you want to play this? Because we know that if we just stack a bunch of hires on scores in round 1, we're not going to get a very good payout. So if we can try to find an anti-correlation whatever here, it's going to really boost up what we're going to do. Is there anyone that like you're drawn to right away?
Not really, but I will say from a strategy perspective, I don't know how well, at least for me, us, some of these, you've had more success than I have on these, but I will say looking for the anti-correlation for the small percentage boost bump that it's giving us, I think it's like you just got to find the 3 picks and just get after it and take what you get for a number because we're trying to make money, trying to make profit. That's what I've noticed is when you sort of angle it for different angles that you looking for just that little boost, it hasn't really worked. I do like taking 3 picks, right?
Yeah.
Just looking at it from that perspective. When Kenny and I were doing on Fantasy Golf Degenerates and first started with Underdog, I remember it was Nelson Adcock. Shout out to him, another running cut sweats, another good the 50K score for him in Showdown.
Yeah, the 3 and 5 are the best payouts on
right.
Underdog for Pickem.
And that added up. So I do like getting to 3, but then I think at that point you're already getting some good odds. So looking for the extra small percentage boost, we just don't have to do it. So where do you want to start here? Because we are looking at round 1. You talked about weather. I just am curious what your first thoughts are, how you want to attack.
I kind of want to attack crappy players with scores that I think are artificially enhanced versus everyone else. So like Dustin Johnson, 72 strokes, so 1 over or worse. I mean, Finau 71. Like, I think we all agree, regardless of what you think about Finau, that he's in much better form than Dustin Johnson. Like, on the odds board, they're separated by over 125 points. Yet they're giving them 1 stroke of difference.
Right. So just take the higher 72 on DJ and call it a day.
Call it a day.
Yeah.
Like, just try not to overthink this.
Like, like you said, they're not going to throw up a 76 for Dustin Johnson here and just say, you know, that's how it works. So you're looking at it from the 72 versus 71. Seems pretty insane for same round, same course, same everything. And run it that way, and I like that call. So higher 72 on Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, watch his driving distance play a key factor here, and he ends up shooting like 64 or something like that.
It can, but it's all, like I said, it's how we're attacking it. It's just taking it from that angle. So if he's one of them, who's another?
Homa 72.
Where's he at? Yeah, same reasoning.
Same reasoning. We could go with that. The problem is when you put those two together, I guess 2.76 isn't all that bad after like trying to correlate that this is going to play tough.
Yeah. It's definitely, you know, if you take a lower on him or something, then it switches it drastically. But it's like, it's not, in the end, it's got to be what you still think it's going to be, right? Like this is the case of this, you know, just picking 3 winners. That's really what you need to happen for this parlay to hit.
So the other one, and Kenny pointed this out, John Daly higher than 0.5 birdies. Like he is still one of the few players with the distance to hit it over that burn on the par 5. And he has like 100 yards in on a par 5 to make a birdie. Like he can do that.
Let's just do it for the sweat equity. So we're all sweating the John Daly birdie.
The John Daly birdie
in round 1. What time is his tee time? Just out of curiosity. That'd be sweet if it was very early.
Who did I say that he was out with?
Rye.
Yeah, he's out with Rye and Santiago de la Fuentes.
Pretty early.
3:36 a.m. Eastern is when he's up. So you'll be able to know the moment you wake up whether you won or lost.
Man.
You go Dustin higher than 72, Homa higher than 72, Daly. It's only a 0.9, but it does boost it up to 5.68.
That's what I'm saying. To me, that's still a good number. Anybody would take that all day. Homa and Dustin.
Who do you like less, Zalatoris or Homa? Because you could go Zal higher than 72. Like that guy hasn't done anything in months.
Okay, let me think about this for 1 second because I'm looking something up. Let's take Dustin Johnson off and put Zal with Homa.
Okay, I think I've used Zal on something else, so I'll be capped on how much I can actually get down on this.
Let me see this here. Where's Zal on here?
Zal is 72. It doesn't really affect anything in terms of the odds.
Same odds, but the reason is, here's my take now. Everybody gets an amazing sweat. You wake up, the first thing you do, whether you're by yourself, have a significant other, whatever, you're in bed, you wake up and check, did John Daly make a birdie when you wake up for the end of the first round, the guys that went off first, and then Zal and Homa are in the same wave, kind of, like they're just shortly after, so you will get to kind of sweat it out first thing in the morning if you got your John Daly birdie. So I like this one quite a bit, and it's all stuff we liked anyway.
All right, so now let's get greedy. So let's take it from a 3 to a 5. I got it up to 19.5 to 1.
So I'm taking this at 5.68. Okay.
So you keep those 3.
Yeah.
You add Dustin Johnson, higher than 72 strokes.
Put him back in now, yep.
And the lowest number I've seen, or the highest number I've seen on this all year, Scotty Scheffler, lower 69 strokes. Just say, Scotty shows up and shoots 4 under because he does that every round anyway.
What if Scotty doesn't show? We've heard Scotty doesn't know. What if Scotty doesn't show?
Hey, listen, if Scotty doesn't show and Scotty gets you, that's one. You can play it as a flex.
Almost 20 to 1 when you pump that in there.
Yeah, because it gives you the anti-correlation, like, boom, back. But you can play the flex where you need to get 4 out of 5. And if you get all 5 correct, it's 10 to 1. If you get all 4 correct, it's almost 3 to 1.
I like the standard, and it's also sweet because DJ, well, he does go out later than that first trio. If you hit that first trio, DJ's out like an hour and a half or an hour and change before Scotty, so you get the final sweat on the Scotty 69 or better.
There you go.
Well, lower than 69, I should say, is what you need.
$100 pays $1,955.
I don't hate it. I think it's crazy that it almost feels like the Scotty one feels like it's he does or he doesn't. Like I said, so
yeah, well, of course he does or he doesn't. But if, like normally his number's 67 or something at a par 72. There's a par 71 and it's 69. Like shoot 3 under, you're good to go. He normally shoots 3 under.
He can do that. Of course.
And when you look at who the best win players are, shockingly enough, they're Scotty Scheffler.
That's another one. It just fits into the mold. It's like, wow, he's actually good at golf in any conditions. That's somehow you get to number one in the world. There's part of it, yeah.
So I'm going to put that. That'll be in the newsletter a little bit later on. But as we've seen with the ones that we do on the show, everything gets crushed the moment that we put it out. So it'll be in the description in the comment section of the show if you want to tail along or populate it and do the opposite of it and see what happens.
Yes, sneaky tactic. If you are, subscribe to the Mayo Media Network, have the notifications bell turned on, and snap right to the time code of us doing this and get it in first before you listen to the whole show. You'll get ahead.
You don't even need to go to the time code. You can just go to the description, hit the link, and it'll populate.
That's right. Yeah. So there you go.
Final bets. Oh, meant to say that the Pat Mayo Experience Classic for round 1 is up on Underdog right now. It's $20 to play, 5 max, no rake in that. It's not close to full yet. But if you click on drafts right now, let's see if it's up there. And the Pat Mayo Classic, the Pup Cup, the Sprint, the Marathon.
Yeah, it's front page.
Yeah, it's up there. But as of probably tomorrow morning after lock at the Open, there's going to be a new draft for the FedEx Cup for all 3 tournaments. A lot like the Majors draft that we did. I'm very excited for that. Maybe we'll do one of those on the show next week as we go through it. I like that style of draft more than the 1-round draft. I think there's way more strategy that goes into it. You can use a lot of priors that go into it. So it'll be for the St. Jude, the BMW, and at Eastlake will be the draft that you do. You pick 6 guys and move on your way. And we'll have a custom contest for that. I think it's 5% rake in this one, where the regular ones I think are around 11%. There's also a Pup Cup that's up right now that for the FedEx Cup, that's $10 to play on Underdog. But this one's going to be $25, 10 max.
$20K to first for the Pup Cup. What are we going to get with the?
I don't know.
We'll have to wait and see. We'll do it next week.
I can look at my email and try to figure that out.
I do like them though, because there's a little more strategy, and people will just take guys that aren't even in or that are unlikely to get in or whatever it might be along the way, and then there's a lot more luck involved for their picks versus what you can draft.
Let's see, $25 to enter, $20K in prizes, 870 people, $2K to first, $1K to second, 900, 880, 70, 700, 600, 500, 400, 300.
Very balanced.
Yeah, I made sure that it was like balanced out, that if you get to the finals, it's a lot like the one and done in that sense.
Oh yeah, I love this. We were lobbying for it yesterday in the Discord. I was trying to talk about that, how they just, too many people are paid in these. Like, I want it to be top heavy still, but I want it to be, if you come in 9th place, it's almost like making the final table at the main event.
That is the perfect way to put it. Like, if you have a good showing and clearly you did well, I don't want all the money going to first and you get no more than the guy who came 300th.
It's just because there's so much variance in it in golf. I know that when you win it, it feels great. I've been there as well, winning high 100K for first on a football tournament when second is 15K. Yes, it feels really good when you get first there versus second, but I'd be willing to alleviate that with like a 50, 40, 30, 20, just for me, because it's literally one putt or one Straka chip in from 41 feet or something, and all of a sudden you just get drained from first down to 9th and lose all the money.
Sounds like you're still bitter about the Memorial.
No, that was helpful actually. That was the one that was top of mind.
So here are my bets. I haven't added anything yet.
So what do you have right now?
Finau 45 with 8 places, Louis 100 with 8 places, Akshay 150 with 5 places.
What about Rye?
No, I don't have Rye on there. I have L's top senior with 3 places at 10 to 1.
Oh man, you're the second person this morning that's tried to talk me into some L's.
Well, when we went through it, we did it on the Best Bet show, and we brought up the top senior market, and he's down to 3 to 1 now from 10 to 1. It was just a misprice.
Yeah, that would make more sense. I mean, taking it for when you saw value in it versus now hitting it at 3 to 1, I'd have a tough time.
But I played the each way on it. I think there's 6 seniors in the field, and it's a top 3 each way. So even if he comes third of the seniors, I still end up making money. I put $50 on it. I end up profiting 150, even if he.
Did they go by strokes in case they all missed the cut?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was expecting that, but just want to make sure.
I bet Louis, former winner, market at 14 to 1.
Former winner market?
Yeah. So all the previous Open champions are all.
To beat the former winner, best
to
former
be the
winner.
best.
Gotcha.
Of the former
Okay,
winners.
I was like.
So that's Lowry, Spieth, Rory.
Gosh.
It's Cam Smith. Well, I looked at it. He had the same odds as the low live market, but the guys at the top of the low live market, I felt like were better. Like you had Neiman and Brooks and Bryson and Cam Smith.
Versus Rory, Cam Smith,
Lowry.
I don't know. I feel like
Put it this way, but Louis was behind Spieth and Herman in that market.
I think they're both tough bets. I'm not against it. I'm just saying that their hard reasoning is because like the one you said for the former winner one is a lot of wild cards.
Yeah.
Like, are you worried like a Spieth just shows up for whatever reason or something? Like, it's just so many wild cards versus the other one. It's just as hard to beat a Brooks, Bryson, etc., Rahm, all these guys. So yeah, I got you. It makes more sense.
Barracuda. Got 4 of them. I got more bets on the Barracuda than I do on the Open so far. I got JJ Spawn 50-1.
Nice.
Rico Hui at 60.
Back to the
Gotta
well.
go back to the well.
How can you?
I think he's gonna come dead last.
God,
Like just the mental anguish of him just blowing it last week.
You got really crushed last week, amongst others. But man,
him and Cootie,
Cootie.
Man, they had it. Both
Hall.
of them had it.
the Harry Hall out from off the green, that was expected.
It
Once he
shouldn't
spent
have.
4 hours doing it.
Once Hall shanked it OB on the par fives, like we got it. This is it. And then we just couldn't keep it together.
Yeah.
So he's at 60. Troy Merritt at 90-1.
I like that.
And Nick Hardy at 100-1, who I bet last week. He was, I think, 4th in ball striking and lost 7.5 strokes putting, which was 3 strokes worse than any other tournament of his career.
I'm not a Rico guy, but 3 of those guys are my dudes. I've always played some Spawn. You know, I love Nick Hardy. And then, of course, Troy Merritt. I got the flow chart for him, so this would be a perfect spot. It is the Troy Merritt flow chart, so I like that call as well.
And I went back and looked at past Barracudas from like the past 2 years. You see, just Troy Merritt loves birdie streaks and like eagles.
Who won it? Wasn't it like Reevy?
2 years ago, Reevy won.
That's
Last year, no, it wasn't Vince Norman.
Wasn't it Akshay over
won.
Patrick Rogers?
So we've seen this. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you really just wanted to line up like Shipley, Clanton, and Thorbjornsen, after everyone did last week, actually, they left Shipley out of it. They bet the 2 like favorites. Thorbjornsen missed the cut, and Clanton was not involved. Like Morikawa won this event when he was like first coming onto the scene and didn't get into the Open. We saw Akshay do it a year ago. So at EVR did it one of the years that he didn't get into the Open. Same as Woodland. Woodland won it. So, like, if you think a guy's going to be like, all right.
I mean, or better than all right, then those are probably the ways. But it's funny, like you said, that kind of would be the key at this one. Obviously, their odds are not what people love to bet. But, you know, this is a spot where everybody wants to bet the 100-1 guys, and for good reason. They can come through. But to your point, it could just end up being that, and they get the job done, get their first win early.
Stableford scoring as well.
Yes.
Because Rico Hui was T10 last year, or T17 in the Barracuda, but he was 3rd in actual score. Mm-hmm. It's just he didn't have the Eagles to pile it up.
Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, because, I mean, when guys trade birdies for boat, it's a lot like DraftKings scoring in a way.
We've said that for years already, though. Like, how did they not just with the sponsorship?
Yeah, this should be the DraftKings Open.
And just let it be DK scoring and really get people fired up to play that. That'd be amazing.
What bets do you have? I have to add people, and like all week, like I'm gravitating towards exactly the same guys as everyone else. Like Morikawa and Hatton are just staring at me, being like, you know, you want to bet me, but everyone I know it sounds crazy, but like I don't want to bet on the 2 most popular top of the end board guys this week. Like it just feels like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't have anything really great to talk about, but I was thankful Noren got in. I had him at like 160-1. I think he's still pretty much there, so it wasn't like a crazy thing. It was just good that it was there and got that one in.
He's 100-1 now.
Yeah, it's not the worst. I don't know what Max is at right now, but I have a big number on Max because of the major Max Homa and how bad he was playing, and me saying that it's going to be very obvious that he's just going to show up here somehow after he didn't show up at the PGA Championship or the US Open where everyone would expect him to. He's just going to end up showing up here for some reason, so I bet him with 8 places.
He's 110-1 now.
I think it's like 160 or something like that. Wow. Yeah, so Max, and then one other I have that we just talked about, now I forget. It was
Herman? Herman back-to-back?
No, we didn't just talk about this one. I was on my mind. I was going to talk about it. That I got talked into this one was Sam Burns, and I think it's 150 or something. It's big as well.
Where'd you get those at?
365.
Burns 175 at Bet365 right now.
Yeah, it
not without placings. Though.
I might have him and Max Homa messed up, and then it depends. But I have 8 places on those guys. Only one I have 5 places on is Noren because I took it early.
It's same as Bhatia for me. I had him at 150, and then from weeks ago when I had the 5 places.
Lefties winning the Open. Just had it happen last year. Why not Akshay?
I was actually surprised at like how bet on Akshay is this week. I didn't think I just kind of like, what's the Stenson portfolio here? Like, who plays a lot like Stenson? It's like, oh yeah, it's Akshay. He hits every fairway. He's great with his irons, can't chip, and can kind of get hot with the putter sometimes.
And you saw the 22-year-old Akshay interview after losing the Rocket Mortgage in that way that he did. the last time someone did an interview like that after blowing a tournament at age range was Rory McIlroy in 2021, then went on to win the next major by 8 strokes. So Akshay's got a lot leaning in his favor, Pat. You're like, well, how would that even be a thing?
I don't know. Listen, if it happens, I'm here for it.
You got to make up narratives in the major weeks, Pat.
I don't know if I want to go too far down the list. Like, honestly, I was looking at Abe Answer because he's like 250 to 1. He just seems better than that. Maybe Horschel at like 300 to 1 with the 8 places. Anyway, but like for actual like outright bets,
I think you would take your Abe real quick, just in your what's that in the live market?
I have to go look that up.
Yeah, that'd be like
either way,
pretty solid, I imagine.
For the outright market, like Fitzpatrick's name just kept coming up. Like, I don't like him this way. I might just play him on DraftKings because I know no one is going to play him.
And because he's just good for like a 20th or 30th usually, besides the one year he won the major at the U.S.
Yeah,
Open.
He's won a major, and he's won at these links courses. It's just Cam Smith and Brooks. Like I can get Brooks at 70 to 1. How can I do it?
Yeah, I'll take that for
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Of all the bets you said, for sure that one. 70, it's 3 places, I think. But
yeah, it
you
is.
got to grab. But yeah, there's a little extra insurance just in case. Even
he
if
just
it
shows
gets
up
chopped
and putts. It's not like the ball striking has been bad. It's the putter that's been bad.
I've been having a sense and a feeling that it's going to be a live guy wins.
I feel that too.
And I don't think it's going to be Bryson, even though he makes perfect sense again. But I'm just saying, like, I could see it like Rahm finally shows up. He obviously WD.
That's Cuss' pick.
The U.S. Open. Yeah, Cuss gets major winners, right? He's got Wyndham Clark in the past.
How about Louis just wins for all of us?
Louis would be nice. There you go. I didn't bet that with everybody, but I saw it drop like a rock. So there you go. That'd be good for the community. But then like a Neiman, Cam Smith, a Brooks, just these guys, man. There's definitely a feel that it just could be one of them. So I just have that feeling now.
What about maybe the lot? Like everything points to Hatton this week. Everything.
Except winning majors.
Except, I mean, you're not a major winner until you win a major.
Yeah, it is true. People do until they don't, and then they don't until they do. So as long as you stay in the game and continue to play, there's definitely an opportunity, and Hatton would have that in his favor. He has a lot of people hoping for him and supporting him this week.
Yeah, and maybe I will end up betting him. Again, the newsletter, it's completely free to sub to. I'll have my final decisions made in that. But my big bet is going to be Tony Finau this week. That was the one and done that we played as well. I had Finau, Cust had Rahm, and Feinberg had Ludwig.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too. The other thing is like the knocking at the door up top of like Kawa, Oberg, Xander not just, won a major already and now is still up there in these tournaments where he hasn't even done a lot. Rory, obvious reasons, and he almost again last week. And then Scotty coming off a win, if people forgot. So of like what is 6th this season on top of a major he has. So yeah, it could just be that as well, Pat. And all these numbers get shut down real quick. So grab your each ways if you got them. Big
one and done selections. For the week, I have one team out of the money, one team in the money. So it's 3.1 million to first place here. So if you hit a winner, you're going to be in the money probably, depending unless you're like dead last. I don't have a lot left for the team that's out of it. I have Bryson and Rahm. I have Tommy. I have Bobby Mack, Henley. I have Hatton.
Tommy and Hatton, very safe, very popular.
But this is the one where I need to have a winner that's a bit off the board.
Yeah, and so it's like one of the guys. Who else did you mention with Rahm up top?
Bryson.
Yeah. How much has Bryson left, though, after people used him at the PGA in the U.S.?
Still 65%.
Yeah, so he's...
Rahm is 66. Fleetwood's only 35.
But that 35 is getting...
Used right now.
So that's not... It's interesting because that's not fully the way to... Usually we think about it like that, but that's a perfect example where even though he's much lower availability, it's way more people are using him than I would say probably like Rahm, just because... Bryson has the same number as Rahm left. It's your last chance to play either of them. Where are people going to go? The dude that's won a major and been in the mix of all of them versus the guy that WD'd the last one and bad results in the first two. So Rahm would be the off the board. Do you have Koepka?
No.
Okay. Do you have Cam Smith?
No.
So then I think you probably...
Oh, maybe I do have Cam Smith.
I check for Smith. That would be a great way to get some
action.
I do
have Cam Smith, actually.
Yeah, I like that one.
For
you.
Cam Smith or Neiman?
Smith. I think it's a different conversation when you're talking about DraftKings because you're saving a bunch of money and maybe betting odds, but I think for you, that's a great way to get your Cam Smith exposure.
So for my team in the money, I got Bryson, Rahm, and Sahith, Harmon, Homa, Finau. Finau's the pick.
Yeah, Finau.
Let's go. Tony's going to come dead fucking last.
There's a lot of...
82 by the time I wake up. My week's over.
There's a lot of love for Tony. Where he be now, it may be at the bottom of the board. We'll have to wait and see.
Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Supercharger, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. Let's move to DraftKings then. And try to figure out what we want to do here. How do you want to start? Well, you want to start with the chalk lineup, or do you want to start with a lineup that, like, I have a lineup that I made that is the all wind / Lynxy lineup.
What is that one? Let's start with that. We did this last week. It didn't fully work out, but just to think about it from a different perspective, the chalk, we know we'll get to in a second because everybody wants us to cover that. But what is the first lineup you started off with here?
Scotty, Hatton, Cam Smith, Ryan Fox, Hadwin, Valimaki.
I know Hadwin's 63. How much is Valimaki?
56.
Valimaki.
Wacky Valimaki.
Hurt some feelings last week.
He did. He hurt my feelings going bogey to miss the cut.
Yeah, that one sucked. Didn't he have like a chip and eagle before that though?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yes. No one remembers that. It's like my tens beat aces, but then when it came to the other side, I get crushed. It's like, oh, I got screwed. Okay, I got the projection on that one. Now let's build the chalk lineup just to see.
All right, let's get rid of that. What do you think the chalk lineup is going to be?
Well, I was going to say this to you. I think for sure we go Im and Morikawa to start.
Oh, really? You think Im?
I absolutely know him. I think he might be one of the highest owned on the slate.
Let me see. I haven't even looked at the ownership.
$6,900.
Very nice.
It's
I don't have enough guys start yet on Fantasy National. I should probably go in and do that. I kind of want to take just full contrarian this week.
If you're going to do it, this would be a good spot to do it.
Like, I think that Scotty is going to be way lower owned than he normally is. Mm-hmm. Like, just 75% Scotty. That's gone wrong like twice this year out of 20 events.
Yeah.
Cam Smith was another one. Brooks was another one. Like, Victor would be one.
Who do you think people play up top, though? Like, if it's, to me, I know Morikawa and Im as the starting point, but then it becomes like, is it Finau?
Yes.
Is it? Okay, so.
Or Hatton.
Oh, let's put Finau for now.
Okay, let's see here. Ownership projections from fantasynational.com. Fantasynational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off. And if you want to follow the CUDA, the leaderboard app is where it's at. The Open app, it's not the best because the Masters, although the Masters was a downgrade this year in terms of how good the app was, the Open Championship Radio on the Open app, don't even bother listening to fucking Mike Tirico. Turn that guy on mute and open up Open Championship Radio while you're watching. It is the best broadcast, radio, TV, internet, whatever it might be, bar none of any golf tournament all year. It's awesome.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that out this morning, so I'm excited to check that out.
So let's see here.
I got it here if you want.
You know who actually the contrarian play is at the top? Bryson.
I pitched this yesterday that no matter how much people mention him right now,
no one wants to play Bryson or bet Bryson or do anything with Bryson this week.
Yeah, and it's because also too Rory's $100 less. People do want to do stuff with Rory. Scheffler's right there.
Do you want to do stuff with Rory?
I do not. But, just in general, for not at least in the way you're insinuating, but just in general, Scotty's there, Rory's there, X is there, and then you drop down to the Morikawa, Hatton, Fleetwood range that I just don't see how he isn't squeezed. So real quick note, though, is that's what, to your original point, the Scotty Scheffler thing I also think is correct as well. It's going to be the lowest we've seen him in general.
But he'll be like 18%, not 33%.
I could see him closer to 25, but more 20 to 25 than 30 plus. Yeah. And so that's a significant delta. Just like when I say with Bryson, I think it's, you could see like guys around him 10% more than him. So we'll have to see how it shakes down. But the chalk pretty much looks balanced because I think it's a Morikawa Hatton that you mentioned.
Or Fleetwood, because Fleetwood's cheaper than
You
Hatton.
can go and run a 2v2 on this in a second because then it would be $200 more that you would gain. Yeah, I got the 2v2 as well. So put this in. It's Morikawa.
One sec. Let's see. You pull. I want to fill out what I think is the chalk lineup. It's coming up on the screen right now. Don't look. And then you fill out what you think the chalk lineup is going to be, and we'll see if we can meet in the middle here.
There's a 2v2 if you're going Hatton or Fleetwood, and it's pretty obvious.
if it's a balanced lineup that you're playing. I don't think we're going to be along the same page here. Finau 77.
And they both project almost the same, so that tells you.
I don't have it. I ended up with
because you don't know the other guy. You didn't know if Im was going to be chalk, but there's another guy.
No,
below
well,
Im.
I'm looking at it right now. I very clearly see that Im is chalk.
Yeah, he's chalk. What about another guy down there?
Corey Connors
He's actually going to be owned for sure. But
and
there's,
Aaron Rye.
There's another guy actually in the 6s that you're missing.
Is it Davis Thompson?
No, it's the guy that almost won last week, Adam Scott.
Oh, you think that people do go to him?
100%.
Okay, well, if that's the case.
That's why I have the lineup, and then it just builds itself.
Okay, let's see here. Let's throw Scott. You threw in Scott instead of Connors?
So if you started Scott
I
in
got
Morikawa, you'd have it.
Morikawa, Hatton, Im, Tom Kim, Finau, Adam Scott.
Yes, and if you flip Hatton and Tom Kim, it can be Fleetwood and Hideki at 8,500.
Which is much lower owned right off the bat because no one's using Hideki after he. I don't think he made a birdie last week.
He
did.
I do think people consider that. I actually still have Hideki coming in closer to like 15%. And it's because people look at that stuff, and Hideki did nothing wrong besides putting. Horribly wrong. So I think that's why. I guess I would agree with you. I think the Hatton version is more popular because people are liking Kim low-key, like you mentioned. They're actually betting him, all this stuff. So he's got to be showing up. So that's probably the version, but they both project almost the same. And that's sort of the build this week. People are very comfortable getting to 2 6K guys. And notice this, that's really interesting about these builds. There's no 7Ks, whereas usually these past X amount of many weeks that we've been doing this, even with the 5K range, we've been talking about 3 and 4 7K guys in all builds. Now we're looking at builds with 0 to 1. You mentioned there is versions of it. We can go to that next.
Let's keep this one up, but I want to talk about the ownership overall for a second. So this is what I'm seeing right now. Now, obviously, there's going to be a big delta on some of this stuff. That the highest 5 owned players are likely to be Rory, Scotty, Morikawa, Fleetwood, and Finau.
And Im.
And then it goes Connors, Im, Hatton, Rye, Tom Kim.
All makes sense to me.
And then you said Adam Scott. I wasn't seeing Adam Scott, but it seems like people on Fantasy National want nothing to do with Adam Scott. We have him at like 12% ownership, not 20 like he might come in at.
He might come in at I have him currently at around 15 as well. We'll have to see how the numbers actually shake out, but it's for that range, that's heavy chalk. There's tons of guys around him, 1 and 2% owned.
And then if we look at the 9s, Morikawa, Fleetwood, Hatton a little bit lower. I think Hatton or Fleetwood will end up becoming a little bit more popular just because of the savings that you can get, which means no one's using Brooks. Few are using Cantlay, maybe around like 10%. 10% Hovland as well.
Yep, we're pretty in line on all that stuff, and I'm going to lump Cam Smith in there at 8,900.
Yeah, he's low as well.
Just because he's right there, but he looks low as well. Yep.
Because you have Finau at 87.
Matsuyama, Tom Kim, like all the dudes right below him and above him are the guys people
Shane Lowry is the other one that I think that will get a little bit of steam in the 8s.
He can, yep. I think it's going to definitely be Finau, Matsuyama, Tom Kim, and then Lowry.
Yeah, and I like Finau obviously the best, just objectively, but I think as a DraftKings play, Cam Smith is probably where you want to look, or Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I think the Kim Hatton version that we had earlier is the most popular version.
Well, just because all those pieces fit so seamlessly, and it leaves $0 on the table. In the 7s, Harman, Connors, Rye, Norton, Thigala, and Akshay a little bit.
Yeah, Connors, Rye. That's what I had. I'm just recapping mine. I do think
Max Homa, 2% I have right now.
Yeah, not many people want anything to do with Max Homa this week.
Justin Thomas, I think, had the biggest ownership swing in history from Thursday to now.
Remember when he was winning?
He won. I was told I got people victory lapping their Justin Thomas outright tickets to me on Thursday. What did he come, T50?
Did not go well after round 1.
No, not great for old JT. However, if we had just stopped the tournament and he had won after Thursday, $7,400 Justin Thomas would have been 40% owned. And now he's 4% owned.
Yeah, man. We'll see what happens, but I think you're about right. Yeah, it's not going to be high.
No, and even Bobby Mack's not getting a ton of love. Neiman's not getting any love. Spieth's not getting any love. I get the Spieth thing, but he just shows up. He's never missed a cut at an Open Championship.
The most interesting part is just the 7K as a whole. Like, it's not even that crazy. If Corey Connors is like 15%, that's definitely owned, but you know, when you've got Thigala, Noren, Burns, Sepp Straka, Akshay, Bhatia, all these guys, but yet people want to just play Im, Scott, some version of that with whoever else you like down there, whether it's Louis or Henley or whatever it might be, it just forces it so that, you know, it gets spread out in a lot more places, but not many people are landing on multiple 7K guys.
Sungjae, Davis Thompson will get some love. I think he's wildly overpriced, by the way.
Overpriced?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Like there are significantly better players behind him.
yeah, possibly. It's just people are going to play off the form, and he didn't go over the 7K number, so that's
Sure,
fine.
but
It's
like
fine.
I get that Ben An had a miserable end to his round on Friday to miss the cut. Like Ben An's a better player than Davis Thompson is. Like, let's be real here.
Who has more wins?
That's I mean, if we're talking about in the UK, it's Ben An who's won at Wentworth.
There you go. That's
But like,
your guy.
so in the 6Ks, you kind of hit on the big ones. Im by far, Louis a bit, Adam Scott probably a bit higher than Louis because he's $100 cheaper, and then you have Davis Thompson. I just take a look at like Ryan Fox at 3%. Like that's an auto play for everything that I just kind of brought up.
Yeah, I mean it's
And not even bad form either. Like good form. He was fine last week. He just didn't. He wasn't.
He's a
inside
good
the
little
top 10.
pivot in there. Your guy Siwoo was there, had a nice Sunday, as I mentioned. You know, you got to go dig in. He obviously was just firing away, but he's 6,800. Fox is 6,800. You know, going down further, usually people like Bez. You mentioned Answer. Tom McKibben, I'm not sure if you saw, came in at 20-something% last week in places.
Missed the cut by a stroke.
Missed the cut. I mean, he's back to the well if you want to go there. I don't think anyone is, but he's there.
Like I would go back to Nikolai again, who just was again miserable on Sunday. Him and Fleetwood.
Rasmus was pretty consistent. If
Rasmus
you go back
was
and
good,
look.
but it was a lot of chipping in and putting.
Yeah. It's going to take it's going to take similar here, I think. So.
Like Nikolai last week, he lost 3 strokes around the green, 3 strokes on the green, and was like 4th in ball striking. I'd rather go that route.
Oh, for sure. I think any week we would, and I think most would as well. But just to notice it at 65, the more you go down, you're telling stories for these guys. But like, you know, what if Hoagie just finds his ball striking? That's a guy 6,400. Kitayama looked okay last week at 6,300. You mentioned English and Hadwin, who are both right there. Victor Perez is 6,200. I do feel
Victor
like
Perez is getting some love.
he can't get much.
He's not gonna. I think he'll like versus the guys around him.
Yeah,
like versus a Horschel or Hadwin, I think he's going to be like double those guys. Whether that be 2 to 4,
1 to 2
3 to
is
6.
technically
no.
double.
I think he'll be like 5 or 6.
If he is, that surprised me. I have him like 2 or 3, but I guess whatever. You know, people land there. It's just my thing is it gets so spread out. That's why I didn't mind the pricing. Everyone down here is going to have their dudes, right? People were playing Nakajima last week. People played Ewan Ferguson. People played Jordan L. Smith, Moronk.
I played Jordan L. Smith.
Yeah, take Jordan, take your L. Smith, that's the guy, man. Soderberg was, I think it's like 2 WDs in a row, but he was, remember I told you, popping last week, did not end up playing, WD'd, and now he's down to 6,300. So he was 68 last week before the WD. Tiger Woods, 6,200. Did you see him, Pat? He's in better shape. He's slimmer. He's just pounding it out in the fairway every time. This is the one.
I mean, if there is a major, not that he's going to win, but maybe he could. Who knows? But if there's going to be a major where he plays well, this is most definitely it.
Phil, the live guys are going to win. Phil Mickelson, 6,100.
I would take Tiger over Phil this week.
Wonder what the market is on that. I know he's like Tiger to make the cut, plus 250, plus 230.
I think he makes the cut.
That's what I said. That'd be the way I would attack it.
Tiger making the cut won me like 20 grand at the Masters. So.
That was a nice one that year. Romain, your boy is down here at 6,000.
Langesk. So let's talk about our guys down here. I know that you don't normally go scumming down here.
Yeah.
But I do kind of want to play some Scotty Bryson lineups, or Scotty Rory, or Bryson Rory, or Bryson Xander, whatever it might be. I want to make some super elite combos at the top because, frankly, no one is going to be doing that.
Yeah.
That could be a skeleton key and we know it's the Open. There's going to be some random goober up on the leaderboard. Happens 2 or 3 of them every year.
We just saw it a bunch last week. I mean, even, you know, it's the Scottish Open, not the Open, or British Open, as some still like to call it. But just to say, like, that's definitely a thing. I will say when you're doing that, though, you're really hoping that those two come through and get the job done. It's kind of just them. It doesn't have to be a full-on breakaway like Stenson and Phil or something. But I'm saying when I'm doing that and going down low, play your guys or look at made cut equity, because realistically at that point you need the top 2 to anchor it for you. If they screw up or mess it up and it's any form of balanced and not those 2 studs, you're kind of screwed. So you really just need made cut equity and guys that can get through for you.
I brought this up to Raza, and the numbers actually expanded since we had talked about it. Top South American market, there's only 2 guys in it. It's Neiman and Grillo. Grillo is now plus 250 in a head-to-head with Neiman. Neiman, who's never finished better than 50th at an Open. Grillo, who's finished top 12 2 of the past 3 years.
Has Neiman ever top 10'd a major?
No. T16 is his best.
Isn't that the
finish.
one? It hasn't even top 15'd it. There you go. Although people that are doing that lately, like Rye, are starting to come through. So maybe it's Neiman's time.
Maybe so.
But,
Listen, I like Neiman this week, but that seemed like a huge number. Like when I did the Golf Digest column, the head-to-head that I put up was Brooks over Morikawa because Brooks was plus 210. Like, yeah, I think that Morikawa is going to beat Brooks. Yes, if it was even money. But you're giving me more than 2-1 on Brooks to beat Morikawa? Yeah, I'll take that.
I'm hearing Brooks is looking good. Just needs to find a putter.
Yeah, I'll chip him mine. I think I'm buying a new putter later today.
What putter are you buying?
Well, I got kind of spoiled. I went to Jeff's club. I had the rental set, and there was a Scotty Cameron in there.
Okay.
And the one thing that I really noticed, I have the DJ Odyssey that's top-weighted. And it's really good for long putts. It's really bad for short putts, for me at least, just with the way that I putt. And I noticed that using the Scotty Cameron, because I'm not the greatest golfer in the world. I tend to toe some putts. I tend to heel some putts. I don't hit it directly on the face every single time. Didn't matter with Scotty Cameron.
That was the one?
If I hit it off the toe, like it still went as far as I was trying to get it to go. Like I hit and then of course I played yesterday with my putter, just putted like shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, well,
Gotta
I was
go
making
get
40 footers with Jeff.
The Scotty Cameron will fix everything.
Couldn't make a 5-footer with my putter yesterday. Oh, I do want to give a special shout out. It's an ad, but it's not an ad. Because I put it out on Twitter yesterday that I was looking to get team uniforms for our golf trip.
Oh, right.
And Craig, viewer of the show, reached out. He has SoBe promos, so SOBE promos.com. He's going to rig us up 16 shirts with Cuss logo on it, the Cuss like scrunch face. That's going to be the Custies.
Can you look it up? No, man, they got a lot of stuff on this site.
Yeah, it's a promo site. So like, if you need gear customed for work events, team events, shout out to Craig, SOBE promos.com. Like if you guys need some more ship it stuff. Boom.
Yeah, look
Easy
at that.
game.
Yeah, perfect. Craig, hit me up. Look at this setup, man. We got all the stuff. It's nice.
I just want to give him, because he jumped into my DMs. He's like, yeah, I got you. Let's get on this right away so we can make sure that you get it in time. I was just very impressed with the
official promotional product supplier of the Nollins Pelicans.
There we go.
That's looking good, man. This is professional.
You'll see Craig at the Smoothie King Arena.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it's called?
I don't know what it is.
I think it was called the Smoothie King Arena.
Saw Zion at the smoothie thing and getting some.
Maybe he needs to get those healthy smoothies.
Yeah, I think so.
So, again, from down in the fives, I mentioned Hadwin. I like Horschel at 65.
Down in the fives. These guys are in the sixes.
Yeah. Well, it's already 65 and down. So,
okay.
Horschel, don't know if I can go back to Hoagie. We'll see. English, Hadwin in the fives, Valimaki, and Mateo Montecero at 54. Like, guys just playing good golf right now.
I would take. I think I'll take Sharma over him. If we're chasing one of those rounds from last week or one of the weeks, I should say.
But we're not even really chasing his round from last week. We're just chasing like what he's been doing this year.
People found out who Mateo Montecero was last week. So there's 90% of the people are definitely just chasing. We've been playing our guy Sharma for a long time, though.
Yeah, I mean, Sharma's not having a very good year, whereas I take a look at the past 4 events, be it he played the Dutch, the Italian, and the BMW International, T7, T10, T47, T15. He has a win this year. He was top 5 in India. He was top 15 in Korea. This was a guy that was supposed to be the number 1 player in the world 10 years ago.
Okay.
He made a Ryder Cup team at like the age of like 18. I think it was where they take both Molinaris, whatever it was. Like he was supposed to be awesome, and he fell off the face of the earth. He had to go back to the Challenge Tour. He won like 2 or 3 times on the Challenge Tour last year, and like it was like, oh my god, Mateo Montecero is back. And now he's going up to the DP World Tour. He wins again. Like he has an elite skill set.
Get him a top 40 bet. Play him in DraftKings. Yeah, 5,400. There you go.
There we are.
We can start with him. What if you get like a Montecero with your Hadwin in English setup?
Well, let's. So those are the guys. Man, let me scan one more time to see if there's anyone else down here that I don't mind.
How much can we fit in with these 3 guys? You like sold these guys pretty hard, so that's why I'm picking these 3. And they were good sales pitches. I especially like the English and the Hadwin one. And this gets you. Who's your favorite guy up there with Scotty?
It's not even that I like Scotty that much. It's just I feel like even like, he's not a value in the betting market, but this is the biggest number that we've seen on him in ages. Like people have kind of forgot about Scotty a little bit, that he's 2,000 Tiger Woods at the moment. Although I did see that Bryson has the most strokes gained in majors this year.
Yeah, he's looking to go like
Rick put it out. It was like 40. So he's gained 46 or 47 strokes against the field in majors, and Rick put out the best ever 2000 Tiger 81 strokes gained against the field.
Just
in majors, just killed everyone by a million. But yeah, what about Bryson Xander lineups?
Okay, Bryson Xander.
Let's just start there. Or do you want to rejig the chalk lineup that we did?
Look at that lineup right out of the gate. Bryson Xander Fleetwood with Hadwin, English, Manicero. That's what I'm talking about.
Hadwin,
English, Manicero, your low guys that you like.
English.
Skip all those 7s and 8s and chalk 6K guys and just jam in the studs up top.
That's doing things to Rory or jamming in studs. Look at you today.
Yeah. What else do we got here?
How else could we finagle this around? I'm just looking at it. We could go... If you take Fleetwood to Finau, what does that do for us? Because objectively, I like Finau more than I like Fleetwood. So that gives us $600 to play with. You could take English or Hadwin up to 69. There was someone at 69 that I liked. Fox at 68.
You can get Scotty Rahm Finau. But yeah, I'm just playing with the...
Scotty Rahm Finau?
Scotty Rahm Finau.
Oh, yeah.
Let's English Hadwin Manicero. It's pretty solid.
English Hadwin Manicero. Oh, Scotty Bryson, you said?
Well, no, I left the 3 low-end guys
Scotty
you had.
Rahm,
so you could just go Scotty Rahm with Finau.
Yeah.
And
or you
that
could go Scotty
up.
Ludwig if that's really how you feel.
Is that how people feel this week? He's another guy I feel like everyone's, like he was so close last week. It's been whatever.
He blew it, though. He sucks.
But now people are like kind of not going to click him because he's, you can get Morikawa for $200 less. You can go up to the Xander and above for a little bit more. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. People always seem to like him late in the week, but it's just...
People like Morikawa, Hatton, and Fleetwood.
This is why I like this pricing this week, is because it's really a lot of decisions everywhere. Even if you make your stands down low, it's really hard to pick who you land on up top. If you get your guys up top, you're leaving a bunch of other guys out and having to drop down. So I don't know. I think the pricing's fine this week.
So let's try this one. Let's take Rahm out and put Victor. Let's put Ludwig in. We can put Ludwig into that one. And you could take Montesero up to Valimaki if you wanted to, or I think you can turn Hadwin into Louis. Now, you're $100 short.
So what's the Valimaki? He's 5,700. You said?
Yeah, don't worry about him. Let's go. Instead of Ludwig, play Victor. Scheffler, Victor, and then you can take English or Hadwin. Let's take Hadwin up to
Louis.
You know who or Bhatia you could do as well. And I like Akshay. But there's a guy at 7,000 I really like for DraftKings.
Pavon. Yeah.
No one is playing Pavon. Everyone wants to play Sung Jae, not the guy who came top 5 at the U.S. Open.
Yeah. He's another one. So that works if you go Scotty, Hovland, Finau, English, Pavon, English, Manicero.
Yeah.
There you go.
What do you think of these lineups? Is that too aggressive?
I don't think so. Not at this tournament. Again, that's why I kept clicking it this way. I mean, realistically, you know what we're up against. We looked at it off the top. You can shake it down however you want to. There's definitely people that are doing this, and I don't think this is sneaky, but Morikawa, Hatton, Fleetwood, you can just play all 3 of those guys, and everyone's like, oh, I'm going to just play all 3 of them together. But then when you land on Im, Scott...
Well, no, here's the version of that lineup right here, and I think it's Brian Harmon. Morikawa, Hatton, Fleetwood, Sung Jae, Harmon, Scott.
Right. Yeah, so I was just about to say, that's what I'm saying. That's the version people are going to land on, and it's like that does project well. It's a balanced build, everything, but you have all the chalk blended together, and it's not really in that much of a unique way, in my opinion, because nobody's playing. You're like, oh, but I'm not playing any 7K guys. I'm not playing anybody up top. We talked about how the top is most dispersed and lower owned than usual. In general, when you look at Scotty not being 30, you look at Bryson being mentioned but not clicked, all those factors we brought up, and then no one's playing the 7Ks. We need to build a Scotty with all 7K guys.
I was going to say, but before we do that, let's go Colin, Hatton, Fleetwood, leave those 3 in, and take out the bottom 3 chalk guys that we had with Harmon, Im, and Scott. And we'll go Pavon, Fox, then we got 7,500 for Cam Young, Minwoo, Justin Thomas. There we go. The guy that everyone was going to play but now isn't playing. Or Sahith, you could play.
No, that's fine. I don't mind that. And again, just...
I feel like that's at least different.
Yeah.
And you leave $100 on the table.
Definitely different, and you're leaving, projection points on the table, which won't matter because if these guys show up, they show up, and it's definitely a way to get different within that build. But I think just in general, the key is going to be, let's stick with the 7K theme for a second, like I mentioned. So Pavon.
Scotty in the 7s?
Well, let's just do the ones we like for sure. You like Akshay, you bet him.
Yeah.
Pavon, you've been talking about. I'm with you on that one. Who's another 7K guy? You don't have to go crazy aggressive at this point because the build itself is going to be unique. So who are the other guys in the 7s you prefer?
Rye?
Yeah, and ownership doesn't matter. So
Theegala?
Theegala. Now let's go up to the top and plug in Scotty.
And we have 87 for
Finau.
Finau.
Look at that.
That's actually, yeah. I can see all those guys inside the top 10.
That's my point exactly. And that's what I'm trying to bring up is like that's to me, usually everyone's like, oh, but you're playing Chalk Rye again. It's not who you play. It's how you play him. Like everyone has a bunch of Scotty lineups. If he's already going to be lower than normal, and everybody agrees that, than what we've seen at previous majors and tournaments, and then Im is going to be super chalk, and some of this other stuff, that's a huge portion of those right there that it would take out if Sungjae does not come through and it ends up being Pavon instead.
Which is, what, a 49% to 51% chance of happening, like 1v1?
And the combo pack of Scotty Im versus Scotty Pavon is going to be tens of thousands of lineups in something like the $25 Millie Maker.
And like you said, Scotty coming in lower could be 25% versus his regular 35, 40%. And hell, we might get there and Scotty might be 17% because everyone wanted to play Rory.
Or it goes the other way and people are like,
and
we
people are
heard
just
them
like,
talk about it and we're like, we just got to jam Scotty at the end. But that's fine.
But
it's just, in my opinion, still much lower than we would usually see him.
And when you play a lineup like this, like there is a mental barrier that people have among 7,000 and 6,900 that they're just going to gravitate towards Louis, who I like, Sungjae. All these guys.
Henley, Scott.
And
and
I can turn Theegala into, I don't know.
There's not much difference between Theegala and Im. That $300 gets me this.
Yeah.
Like you can do that too. I'm not against it. I'm just saying, just objectively looking at it and saying like this is a build that usually is pretty popular when you're building out Scotty Scheffler lineups with a 5K range. For the reasoning of the pricing coming out early, some missed prices on guys like Sungjae and that for what their form has been. Mind you, Sungjae hasn't shown up in a major yet. He's shown up everywhere but.
0 for 3 in majors
and
for cuts made.
Right. And so it's like that's a funny extra to it. But yeah, in general, this is just a different build while using some of the same guys people are on.
Well, I'm going to trim my core just because, I don't want to play everyone here. I'm not playing 150 lineups. I'm probably going to play like 40 or 50. So my core is going to be a little bit lower than yours, and I'll probably play a few 3-max and some single entries. If we were thinking about single entry, where do you think you would start? Because you don't need to be as off the wall as I was building Valimaki lineups or anything like that.
That's what I was going to say. Like, especially, I've got one in the Mega Millie this week. I want a ticket to it, so I'm going to be in that. It's a 1,000-person tournament. I will be aggressive with probably roster construction just because it's a 1,000-person tournament. You don't have to go as completely off the wall, but also many people have 10+ entries in it where they're going to have any of these super balanced builds covered and things like that. So you kind of just got to pick and choose your spots when it comes to the chalk, meaning guys like Morikawa, Sungjae, some of them.
I'm good with not playing Sungjae, by the way. Like, I'm going to play 0. I mean, I put him into a lineup that we built on this show, but like when I build out my core, I go to Fantasy National and generate my lineups. There's going to be 0 Sungjae in there.
I'm with you. I used to do these full disclaimers on this stuff, and honestly, I'm over it because, like, you heard us on the show.
Like,
you want to know where I get that lineup from?
You can see me entering the lineup as we're playing.
You heard me talking about it on the show, exactly. So that's where I ended up getting on that guy. But yeah, just in general, I think there is something around that. I think Sungjae just, the $6,900 price tag just makes too many people, seems too easy, where they just click it.
Sure, but I would rather play Louis.
And we'll see if Louis gets some late steam. He is popping in the projection sites.
As he should.
So, and we already saw with his betting number drop and all that. So that's where I always say, like, I don't know how different it is going from Sungjae to Louis in your lineups because you're kind of going from, like, other people making the same thought process. Or, like, I'll take Scott up to Louis. Well, they might end up at the same ownership by the time it's all said and done. So play the guy you actually want there if you're landing on those guys.
I'm looking at the Fantasy National outright win simulator right now and trying to find who the sim odds versus the actual odds best values are on the board. You want to hear them?
Yes.
Ludwig is about even. We have him at 21-1. You can bet him as high as 20-1. So it's only 1 point off. Big movers, Cantlay. The sim has him at 27-1 versus 40-1. Tom Kim, the sim has him at 34-1. He's 50-1. Hideki, 35-1. He's 50-1, even higher in some spots. Davis Thompson, Ben Griffin, Justin Thomas, and Sung Jae.
Let me see here with Ben Griffin is what this week?
He's 5,900.
Oh.
Billy Horschel also rates out really well.
What about Xander?
Xander's the number one in the sim odds. He's 16 to 1, but his odds are 12 to 1. I didn't list anyone whose sim odds were higher than actual odds.
So he's still pretty good.
Yeah, Xander, Scotty, Rory, 1, 2, 3.
Oh wow, Xander's the first guy on there. So, And then,
then
what do you like? Would you play Dave? Okay, I know you were out on him, but would you play Davis Thompson over him?
No. I just wouldn't play either of them. I would play Pavon or Fox.
Can you get Fox or is he more?
He's 60.
He's less.
8, I
Yeah,
think.
Fox.
6,800.
What are Pavon's odds in there?
Oh, probably very bad if I had to guess. Let's see. Pavon is 1,000 to 1. He's 200 to 1 to win the tournament.
You know, it is pretty sick though. Just thinking about it out loud, and you mentioned about like the Davis Thompson overprice earlier, and I was like, yeah, but he's still 6,900. Is that like Ben Griffin could have won that tournament if Davis Thompson came backwards a little bit more, and Griffin again
and
made
he's
those last two
$1,000
putts,
cheaper.
and he's $1,000 cheaper, and his form is kind of not quite because obviously Thompson was playing good before that as well, but I don't think Griffin's been
good. Like good is probably a stretch, but not bad.
He had 13th, 16th, and seconds earlier, and then that little run was the fifth there, but like a 39th
he was
and a
second in
31st.
Canada. He was 40th last week because he couldn't make a putt, and usually he does make all the putts.
Versus Davis Thompson's form is like much better. 46 win, second, ninth, all that. Yeah, so I get it. It's $1,000, but just to note, like a one tournament basis, we're going sample size 1. Even looking at last week, pretty fine. I think that's at least an interesting way to look at it. So yeah, I'm not against that.
So let's talk again about that single entry for a second. Like at the top, what do you want to do? Do you want to do one of the high price guys with Fleetwood or Hatton?
I think I'd be willing to just completely move off the 9K range.
Okay.
Altogether, just from the the FOMO you're going to have of no Morikawa, no Hatton, no Fleetwood. What if Brooks shows up, etc.
Okay.
I'd look at it
how
that
about
way.
this? Pick one: Morikawa, Hatton, or Fleetwood. Just for you in general, who do you like the best this week? DraftKings play.
Hatton or Fleetwood.
Okay. Do you like Rory versus the guys he's around, or those guys would you rather drop to the 8s? Because I think, I don't want to say Rory's a lock, but he's a pretty good. He's about as close of a lock to the top 10 as you're going to find.
I would like the Rory 8K and drop down or Rory all. It's going to end up in the 7s, but I would like the Rory with the 8K guys.
All right. How about this? How about the start is Rory, Cam Smith, Finau for a single entry?
Okay, you're already super different.
Yeah.
Starting out with a St. Andrews build with Rory and Smith up there.
Mm-hmm.
You land on 7K, so that's kind of the.
You're back in that range. I like Akshay. I like Louis. And that gives me Thigala. Or Noren. You know what? I'll take Noren. Just as a DraftKings play, I think that Thigala has a much better chance to win than Noren. But Noren, give me a T17 right here. I think we're good.
Give me a first for the bet.
Sure, yeah. For
160
you.
or 170, whatever it was. But I think 11, 2 8Ks, 2 7s, and a 6 is, and you don't have, you're actually.
I don't have Morikawa, Hatton, or Fleetwood.
And you don't have Sungjae or Scott or whatever. Like I said, and again, Louis could pick up some of that steam down there, but when you already have Akshay, Noren, Cam Smith, you're quite off the board here, and you're still playing really good players that you could easily see. These guys can all be in the top 10 with the winner.
Yeah, the one that I'd be most concerned about is Akshay. Just having never played in an Open before, you can switch that to Pavon. You can switch it to Fox. You can change Cam Smith, who's I don't think people trust Cam Smith like I trust Cam Smith, just to be like pretty good
For sure.
And then if he has one of his weeks, he's gonna win.
I still don't. Again, people that think I keep shitting on this guy. I was one of the original Rye guys, but it's like he backdoored that number last week, and he had
to shoot the number to get into this tournament.
Right, which is good for him, and still respect the guy. And I love Rye as a player. I've been talking about this guy for years. I'm just saying, like last week, the take was we got to get on him at 45. And in our own Discord at Chip It Nation, the number one thing that was brought up right away was why would you take him to win a golf tournament when you could take Bobby Mack at the same number? That was it's there, it's in writing. And that was like the guy said, yeah, I would much rather take a shot on him because, well, he's boom bust. At least when he's booming, it's a win. He won the Canadian Open. He's been close here. What happens? He goes on to win. It's more of the same type of thing with Akshay. 42nd miscut, 60th. But when he shows up, 2nd, 5th, 16th, it's boom bust. But when he shows up, the boom is very, very sound, very strong. And he's got to be feeling good. It's Barracuda week. That's, feeling, good timing, good time of year for this guy.
Barracuda week. Here we go. I changed it.
All right, what do
so
we got?
I took out Akshay and I took out Cam Smith. Because those were
Making people feel happy here, Pat.
Well, those were the two that like even I felt like the most discomfort about in terms of DraftKings. I mean, you should never just do it in terms of safety. I changed it to Lowry and Bobby Mack. That was a full 2v2.
All right. Lowry and Bobby Mack. It projects about 4 points better. And I think people feel much safer with this. Bobby Mack's odds, solid. Lowry at opens.
No one's playing Bobby Mack.
Right. And it's funny enough, he fits the mold that we always talk about. He actually got $100 cheaper after a win. He was $7,800 last week. The time to go back to the winners in the past history has been when they get cheaper on DraftKings the next week.
Okay,
and
good trend.
He's $100 less than last week.
Yeah, and let's see. His performance, he's played in 4 Open Championships with 2 top 10s.
Not bad.
He's made the cut every time. He was T71 last year.
And it was always his Bobby Mack back. The guy was, what do we always know him as? Like a big game hunter, mini big game hunter in these majors where he was showing up and making cuts and getting good finishes and stuff like that. But now, 2 wins this year, man. And at the Canadian Open, at the Scottish Open, why not just finish it off with the Open?
The Open. He has the mini version of the Triple Crown, as they used to call it.
I would much rather have the RBC Canadian Open, the Scottish Open, and the Open than anything to do with jackets and plaids and all that, besides the green jacket.
Who is it? I think Tiger, Jack, and Arnie are the only 3 to do it. It's the U.S. Canadian, because the Canadian's like the 3rd oldest tournament in the world, and the Open Championship all in the same year.
He could still wrap it next year.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Do like the Tiger Slam version of it?
Kind of do that version of it. At least run it with the last 3 that he played.
Well, he'd have to win the Canadian Open again, unfortunately. Then he'd have to win the U.S. Open.
Yeah, let's see it.
This has no Americans in it, which Americans have won 9 of 10 Opens at Royal Troon.
Did you see...
How much is L's?
Oh, God.
I don't want to play them. I'm just curious.
Did you see the guys that hit the trends?
50,
Jeff posted it out, and then... It was the Fantasy Grind on X posted it out, and these were the guys that hit his trends. It was Rory, Cantlay, Finau, Decky, Rose, Lowry, Fleeton, Hatwood. Fleetwood, Hatton. Fleeton and Hatwood. I said Fleetwood and Hatton rounded that out. The guys that just missed it were Homa, Horschel, Henley, and Connors. Horschel again.
Telling you, man, Horschel.
Think so?
She's going to shoot an 85 in the first round this time, just to
mess it up and then
just to guillotine us right away and just feel good about it. I don't need him shooting 64, 85. That would piss me off way more than if he just shot 85 in the first round.
85 and then misses the cut by 1 with a huge comeback on day 2. Make it even worse. That would be just as tilting. But yeah, I'm just saying these are the guys showing up. Noren, very close to that as well. You talked about him. And there was a couple others, like the big names. Bobby Mack did fit into that because he just hasn't played the Open 4 times. But he hit a lot.
He has played it 4 times now.
I think he's playing it for the 4th.
This is his 5th time.
Is it?
Yeah.
What did he miss on then?
I don't know. I don't know what Ulrich is talking about, to be perfectly honest with you.
Come on. Oh, he is. Yeah, this is his 5th time. So it must have been something else with him. You needed a lot of other stuff to happen too. Like there was a lot of trends within it. But yeah, he was up there.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking player pool wise.
Oh, Bobby Mack was just not of age. 32 plus was the age that had been the winners.
But he looks like he's like 45.
That's why
that's helpful.
Cam Young as well fits this trend, and the reason is same with Scotty. It's some of the trends they don't hit is mainly just due to age, but they all look like they're 40, so they could all fit in.
So here are the guys that I'm going to play above 10K. I'm going to not play Ludwig Rahm or Xander. I'll play Rory, Bryson, and Scotty. In the 9Ks, Victor, Hatton, Brooks or Cantlay? Which one do you think?
Cantlay.
I know.
I like them both.
That sucks so much.
Cantlay.
I hate that.
The Sims too. Told you.
I know. Everything. And no one wants to fucking whenever no one wants to play Cantlay, he like plays pretty well.
He's been playing pretty well last 2 events too, right?
I fucking hate him. I'll play him though. Cam Smith and Finau, I'll play. Lowry and Fitzpatrick, I'll play.
What about Decky, your boy? Just on the official Pat Mayo rankings, this guy's just through the roof.
Ever since I did that, he's been so bad.
8,500 though. That's disrespectful.
I know, it's a good price. I'll play Lowry and Fitz instead.
All right.
Neiman and Bobby Mack. Harmon, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Justin Thomas, yes or no?
I have a hard time with it. Even with the thought process you said, I'll probably... I don't know, he pops in a couple places for me, so maybe he makes some sets, but in general, not much.
And I'll play Rye over Connors, and I'll play Noren, Akshay, and Pavon in the 7s, along with Harmon, Bobby Mack, and Neiman.
I like Connors.
I like Connors enough too. I just don't think there's that big of a difference between him and Noren or him and Rye.
One thing I want to see though, when you said it like this though,
Maybe the answer is play them both.
when you liked Lowry, Fitz, you said Neiman and Bobby Mack,
Yeah.
and then who was the next guy down the board that kind of really stood out for you? Pavon, you said earlier, right?
Or Akshay.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, they're the same price. I just want to see something quick. Okay, so that's an interesting build because
Lowry, Fitz, Neiman, and who was the other one? Bobby Mack? Yeah.
I'm gonna look at both versions of this with Pavon and Akshay.
11-2 gets you Xander.
Xander, but this is definitely a unique build. Like no matter what, people always play Xander at majors, sure, but do they? When there's Scotty, Rory, Bryson, Morikawa, Fleetwood, Hatton, it's going to be less than usual. So I think that's a point to factor in. If you're playing a stud from up top, he's the guy that may be sort of in check. And then you're playing the low 8K guys. Everyone's on the top 8Ks and the 9Ks. You skip that entire FOMO, and instead of going to Sungjae, Scott, Henley, Louis, etc., you've got Neiman, McIntyre as the two guys up top, and then Akshay or Pavon to round it out.
To do this for me, I would take Pavon to Fox or Louis, one of the two, whoever fits, and change Xander to Rory. That's how I would want to play it.
So that actually makes it easier because then you don't care about these other guys down there. You like Fox, and you just end up getting Rory for, like you said, your top 10 are much better.
Yeah. So to assess what we're seeing in, because we talk about this a lot, like, what's really the difference between this $6,300 guy and the $7,200 guy? Like at some tournaments, there's just no difference. It's just $1,000 more for a guy who's exactly the same, has the exact same chance to do anything. This might be a hotter take, but I don't see. I mean, maybe Hovland, Morikawa, and Hatton are on their own little island, but from Fleetwood, down to Wyndham Clark, I don't see that big of a difference between the talent of these guys.
Yeah, that's going to be the topic of the week because that's why people are playing Kawa, Fleetwood, Hatton, and
Sure,
not the others.
Sure, but that's also the same reason that somehow everyone like, yeah, I bet Finau. I like Finau. There is literally no difference between Lowry and Finau.
Yeah, people see a difference with their ownership is speaking for itself. But to your point, yeah, if you can play sort of any of those guys in there, the 8K range as a whole is going overlooked. But I think the bigger thing is this is, one of those weeks, Pat, where you just got to think of it. And even if you do think like Sungjae at 6K is way better than Bobby Mack at 7.7, you're just like, oh, yeah, he just won. But still, like whatever you think in your mind. Right. That's even though, yeah, exactly. But I'm saying in general, no matter what you think, it's almost more of just the roster construction mattering more, as usual, than the picks and plays, than what your picks are, what your numbers say for the top 20% or whatever, all that. You can still take some of that risk on. You're not giving up that much in projection, and you're definitely getting a different roster construction, which is going to be key, especially if you're playing in something like the $5 or the $25 lottery with 100,000 plus people. It really doesn't matter. You gotta get everything right in the end, but your roster construction is going to be so key.
I've been playing on the show, and even after I generate my lineups, I've just been dumping them into the small $6 with 5K up top. Mm-hmm. And obviously I won it earlier in the year, but I basically just if I put in $300 worth of entries, I usually get $270 back. If I have a down week, I'll win a little bit, $345. I find it's a good tread water tournament with upside to go along with it. Obviously it's not $100K upside. It's only $5,000.
Sure.
But for a sustainable bank, I haven't had to redeposit in ages.
Yeah, I have nothing against that. Like I said, I think that's the key. Bankroll management, contest selection, sustainability. That's really how you get it all. And some of the tournaments are a bit of a scam out there if you look at them. They've got the 12% to first, but then it really drops off heavily after that. And it's a lot of them, they're paying 25 or 26% of the field where they're getting their $5 profit on their $10 buy-in. I think it should be much tighter, pay 15 or 16% and then balance out that final table, if you will.
I switched Fox to Louis in this lineup. I think this is my favorite lineup that we've built.
Fox to Louis?
Yeah. So it's Rory with 2 8Ks, Lowry and Fitz at the bottom, Ooh. Neiman and Bobby Mack at the top of the 7s, and then Louis.
Feeling lucky, Pat?
How lucky?
Lineup number 21. I just clicked save on. Was the version you just gave me?
Blackjack. There we go.
Let's go.
I kicked your ass in the head-to-head last week.
You did.
That's what you get for taking Keith Mitchell, who sucks.
I told you, I literally said it. If you go back and watch the show, it's painful. It's me going, it just sucks. I landed here. This is brutal. And I kept saying it, and then I ended up taking him anyway. That was my bad. All right, so you're up first.
I am. Yeah, and Ben Ann that was my best lineup if Ben Ann made the cut. Because I played it in the $200 single entry.
I'm coming at you this week, no hesitation. You go first.
All right, my pick first. I will take Tyrrell Hatton.
Rom Finau.
Good luck. Hatton, Rory, and then Horschel.
Okay. Hovland Connors. We don't have the same guys.
Yeah, it's true. We don't.
You're
Do
good.
we? Hovland and Connors. Okay.
So I got Rom Finau, Hovland Connors.
Just trying to see what I can boost myself up to here. You took Finau, right?
Yes, because you wanted him.
Yeah, it's true. I did.
Yes.
Still do. Trade.
No trades.
I'll trade you extra.
No tradesies.
I'll trade you extra salary for Finau.
From when I'm hurting, maybe.
No, I don't like that. Who do I like back up here? I can go. Who was the other guy I liked with Hadwin down at the bottom in 63? English. That was the answer.
Hedis. He's a correlation with a winner last week too. Harry Hall
Harry O
from England.
the guy who cussed
Harris
things Harry Iggs is?
English, yeah. We got the mix, man. The Harrys are on fire lately too. Higgs has been on fire.
Let's see if I want to do that. Okay, I'll take. One sec. Yeah, I'll take Monteo Montecero and Colin Morikawa.
And I'll take Sam Burns and Russell Henley to round it out.
And I'll take Aaron Rye as my last pick.
Perfect. So I got mine.
Okay.
Now let's go back to yours from the start. It was
I have Rory, Morikawa, Hatton, Horschel, Rye, Montecero.
how much is Horschel again?
65.
Yeah. Wow, you got the aggressive approach here, Pat, and I think it's going to be good.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I
it
like
is.
playing these aggressive. Like it's
Wow.
funny that people always say, like, if you just ran your standard projections of like whatever the chalkiest lineup was, like, because I mean we could have done that, just ran it back with the first one that we built. But I usually play this type of lineup against you in a head-to-head. Now you usually play some sort of aggressive lineup back at me.
I just played aggressive plays this week. I think my construction was more balanced, but you actually got me by 9, and you're only about 15 off the main, which tells me something too. And I was going to bring this up earlier, but this finalizes. It's a good final point. Was that of all the lineups we built today, and these, stars and scrubs and whatever you want to call these ones, like what yours is, you took on quote unquote
Crazy.
Well, no, you took on more risk, people would say. These are projecting much more similar to the optimal of that balanced safety lineup. So I would say it speaks to this week of being able just to take on a lot more risk and feel better with it than usual. It's not like you're just punting to punt or going off the board to go off the board. This build with Rory, Kawa, Hatton, and feeling pretty good about Rye, already those 4 you feel very good with.
Yeah,
How is that
would,
not safe?
I would feel good about Noren in this lineup too at like the same price.
But then you think when you take your other conviction on Mateo and you talk about Horschel, been talking about him all show, like this makes sense to be your lineup, even if it was like a single entry lineup. Oh, that's way too aggressive. Maybe. I do value the field size and the buy-in and all of that, but if you're that sold on Mateo and Horschel already, those other 4 guys you feel very solid with, so I'd be willing to take this on. You're not really playing like a super low projected lineup to the field, what they can play as the balanced, most safest, best lineup on their board, which I like. And so I think that's going to make a lot more sense in lotteries as well. Just take on more risk.
At Toe Tagging Tambo on X, you can check out his tidbits. ShipItNation.com/Mayo. I saw James is firing it up, feeling like shit, but he's going to fire up the
That's what he
Hoedown
says.
Showdown.
Yep.
I guess it's not called that beforehand, is it?
It's the emergency stream, but it was always the Showdown Hoedown. It's going to be incredible. I got some insight on it.
I'm not going head to head with it. James boxed me out on this one, so he can take it away.
He'll appreciate that. And I mean, he's got a good one planned tonight, so definitely check that. It'll be on the Ship It Nation YouTube station. So it's always a good show. Ton of energy he still brings. Hoping he's feeling better today too, but always an exciting one. And it's last major of the season, so tune in.
Yeah, we got the Cut Sweat Show on Friday live on Mayo Media Network. I got a football show dropping like 4 a.m. tomorrow. So if you're up watching the Open, you hear me and Jake Seeley talk about the NFC West. Although we filmed it before the Ayuk trade demand, although we talked about if he was on the team or not, so it's no different, really. Filmed it like last week sometime. But yeah, you can go check that one out, and I'll see if the weather was nice enough for myself to play golf with the new Scotty Cameron putter. Almost bought it at the course, and they were like, it's $700. I was like,
No.
Then I started to think to myself, I'm going to play like $1,000 on DraftKings this week. I'll just pay $500 on DraftKings and buy this new putter instead.
That's you got cards for days with points and stuff too. There has to be a way out there to get a gift card that
I
to the
could.
store that you could really find a way to get it for free.
The whole point about using those points is you have to optimize how you use the points. And the number one way to optimize using basically any credit card points is overseas first class travel. That's the best value per point that you'll ever get.
I'm going to try it out, I think, next year.
So instead of spending like $5,000 on a return first class trip, you can spend like $200 and 200,000 points.
Yes, I'm in. I like that, and we're across the pond. You've been making the trips recently this year, so I might enjoy that next year. We'll see.
All right. FantasyNational.com/Mayo. If you want to generate lineups, use all the tools, the app. It's all up there. You get 20% off. I highly suggest that you go do that now. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy. $250 deposit bonus on your first time deposit. And all of this information is going to be in the newsletter later on. So please, Mayo Media newsletter on Substack, or just hit the description. It's completely free, and I might have an extra bet or two now that I've talked it through. Feeling better about the Open after I talk to you. That's never a good sign. But I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!